Hi everyone, my name is Abhinav Goyal. I'm the Director and Senior Practice Manager at Migration Centre of Australia. I'm a registered migration agent and I've been practicing for quite a long time now. And this is our way of providing you advice for the immigration industry that can genuinely help you transition to the pathway that you're interested in. Today we're going to be talking about the Subclass 482 and the transition to 186. There's been a lot of information going around about the 482 and the proposed changes to the 186 to transition across. As of yet, nothing is legislated. So for the time being, it is same as what it used to be, which means you still need 3 years of experience to transition across to the 186 after you worked for the same employer for that entire duration. The second thing is, if you worked for the 482 employer for 3 years and if your occupation was on the short-term stream, you may still be able to transition across. This is based on the fact that you worked during the COVID-19 concession period. If you had worked during that period for a period of at least 12 months for the employer that had sponsored you on the 482, you are allowed to transition to the 186, which is great news for a lot of people because they were in Australia supporting the Australian economy and businesses during that difficult time. Now, let's talk about some of the major changes with the 482 that took effect on 1st July 2023. One of those was the increase in the salary to $70,000 per annum plus superannuation on top of that. Now, this is the basic general requirement if a company wishes to sponsor you, or if you as a company wish to sponsor someone. That requirement means someone would need to be paid a minimum amount every year as a guaranteed income, and it does not take into account any bonuses or any other non-guaranteed income as part of the package. If you are a business that has already been a sponsor for either 1 or 2 years in the past, as part of the standard business sponsorship for the Subclass 482, you can or may be eligible for accredited status if your turnover is greater than $4 million. Now, there's some other requirements to meet the eligibility criteria, but if you have 97% approval rate or higher in your past nominations, if you have a workforce of Australian permanent residents or citizens greater than either 75% or 85%, depending on the number of applications you make or nominations you make every year, it may be that you're able to obtain accredited status. What this means is, it means you are able to get extremely fast processing times for the nomination and visas that you lodge for your company. As part of the 482 program, if you stop working or cease employment for whatever reason, for 60 days or more, you may have to leave Australia because you might be breaching the condition 8607, which is placed on every single 482 visa. Now, if you have breached that condition, it may mean that you are jeopardizing your future applications due to that breach. It's highly recommended that if you're unable to find a sponsor, you leave Australia or apply for another type of visa in those 60 days. Now, this may change in the future based on the information that has been provided to us from the department as they look to change these requirements and make it easier for applicants to find new sponsors and give them an extended time frame for up to 6 months. We're still waiting for these to be legislated and come into effect. Now, if we talk about the difference between the 482 and the 186. We all know that you can transition from the 482 to the 186 if you're on the medium to long-term list and have worked for your employer for 3 years. But did you know you can apply directly for the 186 as well? The main difference between these two visas, if you wanted to apply directly, assuming that the company is willing to support you, would be that you require a skills assessment at the time of application. So we need to ensure that you have a positive skills assessment in your occupation and that the company can offer that position for a period of 2 years at a minimum, as well as demonstrating that you have at least 3 years full-time equivalent experience in that occupation. And if you think these three main criteria are being met, you can get in touch with us at Migration Centre of Australia. Now, another factor to consider with the 482 is that it has an age restriction if you wish to transition across to the 186. That's because the age restriction actually applies to the 186 and not the 482. With the 482, you can be any age, but for the 186, you must be below 45. Now, what happens if you're a skilled worker or a highly skilled worker earning something called above the Fair Work High Income threshold for the last 3 years? If that is the case, you may still be able to transition across if you're over 45 years old. There are certain age exemptions that apply if you earn above the Fair Work High Income threshold to transition across to the 186, even if you are older than 45. As part of the 482, it's important to ensure that your documentation is in line with the government requirements. Now, based on your organisation, there may be different requirements, but some of the main ones include labour market testing, which means the company needs to demonstrate that it has tried to find a suitable Australian permanent resident or citizen before choosing to employ someone from overseas. Now, this means having advertised for at least 28 days on Workforce Australia, which is a government website, followed by 2 other platforms that are recognised by the Department of Home Affairs. This could be Seek, Indeed, Jora as an example, as well as LinkedIn. Now, if this is not done, at least on Workforce Australia and 2 other platforms, you will not meet the requirements for labour market testing, and therefore the application can still be refused. The other criteria is market salary rate. Now, the market salary rate needs to be demonstrated to ensure that the company offering the position is not underpaying any employees that it is hiring from overseas, or any overseas workers that it is choosing to sponsor. It is very important that the company demonstrates that they are paying the nominal wage that they would be to another person in Australia within that location. Now, for example, if a software engineer is being sponsored in Sydney, right, that might be slightly higher than what the going rate is in Perth, as an example. Therefore, we need to make sure that they're being paid nominally according to that market in Sydney. The other requirement is that the company genuinely needs this person. We need to be able to demonstrate with the application that there is a genuine position required within the organization to sponsor that specific person in that occupation. Now, sometimes there is trouble with this. You may have a company that maybe operates in logistics and wants to hire a software engineer, as an example, purely because it is a need of the business. Now, or you could have a large group of restaurants wanting to employ an accountant. That could be another requirement, but as long as a position can be justified, it is still possible to sponsor them in a particular occupation, even if it is not related to the industry that the company operates in.